If you've got it down better than me, I'm happy for you. I have to work on it all the time with everything that I run into, every thought that I think, that we have to work on self-control. And it gets easier on some things. Sometimes some of these that we talk about may be easy for you to deal with, and others may be that's your weak part. I have to deal with my weak parts on lots of things, on self-control. All of this is going to come out of Proverbs. I've actually got 11 lesson Proverbs. This is one of them, self-control, that I've taught before. It's been a number of years for it. But if everybody would turn to Proverbs, because that's where we're going to be today, in Proverbs. All our verses basically are going to come out of Proverbs. And used to, as you can see, I like to color my Bible with comments in Proverbs that I wanted, but it got to where it stayed yellow all the way, all the time. I just quit marking because I just need the whole thing. There wasn't any highlights that were different. I would dare say that in today's society, self-control has got to be one of the key issues of every other sin and everything that's out there. Because who is monitoring us as adults? Other adults? But who does the most good? Encouragement for fellow Christians and brethren do. But it's that old saying, a horse to water. Who's going to make the self-control ultimately? It's our choice once again, is it not? We have to make the choice to have self-control. I'm just going to take off. I'll start on the right side. James, if you'll get 23:12. Brenda, if you'll get 25:28. Judy, if you'll get 25:16. Carly, if you'll get 2:2. Denise, if you get 3:3. Jerry, if you'll get 4. 20, 21, and probably 23. Joyce, if you feel like 6:21. Charles, 23:19. Robert, would you mind 14, 29, and 30? Jeanette, 28 and 26. Luann, if you get 6, 4, you might as well just get 14 through 19 for them, all said and done with that one. Colleen, if you'll get 23 and 17. Jim, if you'll get 6 and 25. And Betty, if you'll get 7 and 25. I think the first time I taught that, I made a mark that I didn't get quite that far, but we're going to try today. What does it say? We're going to talk about the introduction, self-control. And of course, it's got the word discipline out there. Is that not correct? Self-control is self-discipline. Because what happens if we don't discipline ourselves? Well, as children, what happens? Somebody else does the discipline, generally speaking. But as adults, we have to do self-discipline. What does it say in 23:12, James? Okay. Go ahead and read it again, Brenda, or James 1. Knowledge. What does a child do when you start when you're teaching a child? Don't most children want to know? They want to find out. They want to learn. Why is it we as adults sometimes don't want to? Because we think we already know everything? I'm sorry?
We don't want it to change what we're doing.
Don't want to change? That's a good comment there. And by all means, you know me. This is a lesson y'all throw in. Anything that you have comments that experiences, anything that will help, because I love interaction with the class, as you well know. Change. We don't like to change, do we? So what happens if we get instruction and we don't want to change? Do we quit getting knowledge?
We can get ourselves in trouble.
If you don't have knowledge, what? You get in trust. Jerry points out we get ourselves in trouble. Do all the laws, physical laws, stay the same, or do they change every time people get in Congress and your congressmen and representatives and senators meet? They change the rules, right? Does God change the rules? Does man want to change God's rules? So there's the problem. How do we know to tell somebody else that they're changing God's rule if we don't know the rule? Now, I'm speaking to everybody in here that's got lots of knowledge of the Bible. But if you're like me, I know it says that, but where is it for me to tell somebody else when I disagree with them? That's why I had to have Jim when I got married 46 years ago today. I knew what I knew. Tanya wasn't a member of the church. I knew what I knew. But do you think I made any headway when I'm trying to tell her what I knew if I couldn't tell her why I knew what I knew? So, I had to start. It took a couple of years. But with Jim and other people's help, we crossed those bridges. And she probably knows them better than I do, but I had to work hard. The second reason you can do that is when you teach a high school class. You know what you know, but you better know why you know it, because they'll ask. So knowledge, resistance to change, we've got to be careful. What does it say in 25:28?
Whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls.
Would you say that America is getting pretty close that way at times?
That's why we have all these shootings.
I'm sorry?
That's why we have all these shootings and everything that's going on now.
People can't get along, can they?
And they're not disciplining their children.
Jerry makes a valid point on disciplined children, because part of that's because the parents don't choose to. And then we have the problem with the broken homes, as far as there's no parent one way or the other. But in the government, you know, go spank your child in public now and see what happens if the right person's watching. Of course, y'all might have to come get me out of jail even with a grandkid, because if she needs it, she's going to get it. But we have all these things that have caused discipline. How many of y'all, raise your hand if you didn't get in more trouble at home if you got in trouble in school? It was far worse at the house than it was at school. But now they can't even discipline you in school. It's hard to even discipline in school. So kids don't have discipline. And then when you get grown, if you hadn't had discipline to start with, but yeah, what happens if you don't have a fence for your cows, Dan? They go anywhere they want to, right? Well, okay. Which means you got to keep working on the fence, right? Which does that mean we got to keep our self-control? Is it just something you do one time? Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry? Yes, you have to keep the rules. You got to have self-control. Because if Satan just letting you come, he just comes around and bothers you ever so often. Because when you get self-control, it discourages Satan in the fact that he's not going to try that way again. He's going to do what? Try to get you another way. He's going to go after you on your self-control. Yeah, I was fixing to say. He knows our strengths and he knows our weaknesses. And we've got to watch what happens. What does it say in 25:16? Oh, now we're getting into food. That's a weakness for a lot of us. Sometimes when a parent told a child not to eat too much of something, kids did it anyway, thought they got away with it. They didn't tell nobody, or mommy or daddy didn't see them. But sometimes that didn't matter. What happened? Got sick, did they not? I guess in life overall, Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, can it not? We think it's great. I have the freedoms I have. I can do what I want to. I'm an adult. I remember telling a high school kid that I had several seniors. They were anxious to get grown and out of the house. I said, I'm going to tell you, I'm 28 or 29 at the time, I think. I said, I can do what I want. If I want to get up at 2 a.m. and go to the store and get some ice cream and a Coke and watch a movie the rest of the night, I can do that if I want to. But I'm going to tell you, I've got to the age now, that's not what I want to do. I want to sleep. And at some point, that's where you'll be too. Sometimes we think we know what we want, and we don't. But self-control, too much of anything can get you. So we've got to be in self-control. What was it they said in the Old West? Gunfights? Guy always thought he was the fastest. Wasn't there always somebody faster? Self-control. All right, self-control over what guides everything we do? It's supposed to be the heart, is it not? Along with the brain. But because if we don't have the thinking to go with what's in our heart, we're in trouble. Because when we just rely on emotion, that's where self-control gets us. Somebody says something we don't like. Somebody's driving like we don't like. Somebody does something. We react. Got to control the heart. What does it say in 2:2, Carly? What's incline mean? I don't mean lay back in your easy chair. What does incline mean? You choose to go that way. Yes, Denise, correct. So, is self-control something that just happens, or we have to make effort? It's an action. Those are action words. We've got to make actions. What does it say in 3:3? What do you guard most of the time physically? Is it your heart? That's what you're trying to protect, because without it, you're in trouble. So, it says here, don't let kindness and truth forsake thee. Bind them about their neck, and upon the tablet, write them on the tablet of their heart. And some of this is coming real into play because it is political season. You can walk upon people and they're talking about politics, and I'm just going, listen to what y'all are talking. Can't y'all find something better to talk about? Now, I'm not talking about if there's an issue that you need to support or not, but just every day, all day long, a guy calls the people on TV talking heads. That's what he calls them, because they spend 24 hours talking about the same issues all 24 hours. That's not what we're after. We've got to control and do what's right and put the good things in here. Because what happens if you put corrupt in your heart? Does it just stay in that one little bitty spot? Spreads, doesn't it? Spreads in a heartbeat. Pardon the pun. 4:20 and 21, Jerry.
My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear to my sayings. Let them not depart from thine eyes, keep them in the midst of thine heart.
Go ahead and read 23 also.
Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life.
We're going to have to read our Bible not just on Sundays and Wednesdays. We've got to know what's in here, and we've got to take these words. And when we're troubled, we need those words of comfort and those things that help us defend against those evil things. We've got to have us all close. We've got to live right. I mean, above all, we've got to live a Christian life. And without doing what the Bible says and having those words to know what's right and what's wrong. Because nowadays, the wiles of the devil will take something that you think comes from the Bible Will He twist it just a little bit? Just a little. Subtly. We've got to be careful. We've got to be careful what people around us are telling us. And once again, people that our children around and our grandchildren around, because they don't understand any better most of the time, do they not? They're more susceptible to that. So we've got to watch and make sure we keep the words of Christ close to our heart. 23:19. I hadn't forgot you, Joyce. I'll go back to you in just a minute. Guide. Do you guide your heart? Or you just let it absorb everything that comes its way? You've got to know when you don't need to be listening to something or be around certain people or certain things that happen. We've got to guide it. We've got to make every effort to guide. But of course, what does it say first? Hear thou, my son. So if somebody's trying to tell us something that's right, we should be listening to do that. We should be listening to hear if it's wrong, so we won't do that. Joyce, what does it say in 6:21? Tie them around thy neck. There's a lot of people that I know have sentimental necklaces. That's physical. If we're going to tie using our neck and our heart, what is it when you tie something around your neck? Metaphorically, it's what? Close. It's right here. I'm sorry? Secure. For those that served in the military, that was something all their comrades took very personal, did they not? Wanted to make sure. I wasn't in the military, but I know dog tags were very, very important. Okay, let's talk about strife. You know, if people did more talking, good talking, and we'll talk about talking in a minute, but if they did the right thing of talking and did it right and thinking, we might not have so much strife. But what's the tongue used for? To create strife. We have to be careful. What does it say in 14:29 and 30? Okay. If I said, listen to 10 instances, would you say the person was slow to anger or fast to anger out of 10 tries, just in our general everyday life? Probably say 9 are quick to anger. We get upset in a hurry, do we not? We're supposed to be slow to anger. Because do you know the whole story when you get upset? I've told people at my office, if you're going to eavesdrop and hear the whole thing, quit just getting a piece of it, because then it starts all this other stuff that's wrong. We're supposed to be very careful about being slow to understanding, because if you get angry real quick, are you thinking? Hard to think and be angry at the same time. Of course, for some of us, it's hard to multitask anyway. But as far as that is said, hasty spirit. What happens? How many people have done stupid things when they were hasty? How many said, I wish I'd have thought a little longer before I did what I did? I've known people get mad, hit the wall with their hand, or a door, or anything close by. Some of them have had broken fingers as a result of that when they got mad, because we were too quick to get mad. Don't be hasty. We got to be careful. Tranquil heart's the life of the flesh. Envy is a rottenness of the bones. Does envy get less if you're upset and envy? It's like grows, does it not? They just get worse and worse. You've got to stop envy. All right, what about 28 and 26, Jeanette? When a man believes or a woman believes that they know everything they need to know and they only trust themselves, do you think they're going to make God happy most of the time? We're going to talk about listening to ourselves talk too at some point if we get to it. We like to hear ourselves talk sometime, but if we trust in ourselves to get to heaven, how good are our odds? I don't think they're very good, are they, if we trust ourselves to get to heaven? Realizing we got to have grace for one, but we've got to do what somebody else says, not what we say. And somebody said earlier about changing. My deal is people want to change the rules. You can go talk to 50 people and get 25 ways of how you're going to get to heaven. I think that's just my 2 bits worth. I just know every time I talk to somebody, they've got a way they're getting to heaven. They don't have to come to church. Building and to church is the people and the called out, and to listen and to study. They can have God at home. Are they going to get to heaven? Well, I'm not going to judge their heart, but I'm going to tell by their outward actions, I'm not sure they're doing everything that the Lord said do. We've got to be very careful about trusting ourselves. Devising evil. What does it say in 6:14 and 18? Well, we know what sow means. I'm not talking necessarily making a dress. I'm talking more about planting. It always frustrates me, whether it's physical or it's within the church, those that like to start something. They get other people to do all the work, do they not? They get other people to cause the problem. I think we have a lot of that, once again, in politics. I think there's people outside that are stirring the other side people, but I know people that they'll get 2 people fighting over something because they said something to one to get the other one mad. Just to stir. We call it, stirring the pot? Is that what we call it a lot of times? Soweth discord. What happens when that happens in the church? How many churches have split over discord? We have to watch those that are sowing discord and despising evil, because it's like they don't have enough to do. If they would apply themselves to teaching and to doing what's right, just think how good the kingdom of God would be. But it talks up here about calamity, things without remedy. When somebody sows discord, is it just something that happens for the minute? It can last for a long time, can it not? Consequences are bad. Envy and sinners, 23 and 17. Have you ever heard a child say, I wish I could do what they're doing? When you were a child, did you say you wish you could do what they were doing? Why do they get to do that, Mom? Why do they get to do that, Dad? Can't I do that? Sometimes it doesn't look bad right off the bat, does it? The first thing, but you know the consequences of where it's going. Why can't I go riding with them? Well, that's because you know that they're going to probably be drinking at some point. Well, I don't drink. I've known of several that were in a car that died. They weren't drinking. They weren't. I never knew them to drink, but they rode with somebody that was drinking. And some of us learned lessons and got lucky with it. I was a senior in high school. We got college day. 5 of us went to A&M to check out the school. Stopped. 3 of them picked up alcohol on the way home. One of them was driving. We had a blowout on the way home. Unfortunately, all we did was pull over and could change the tire. Never again did I say that would happen. Never again would I put my life in somebody else's hands. I got lucky because we didn't have a wreck. But that's what happens when you're around those that are... I didn't know they were planning on getting alcohol. I'd never seen them drink. But they were out in this big wide world. My parents, they were all good kids. But they got away from home and they're seniors. First time I'd ever known them got some, which is probably why they couldn't carry what they were drinking. But I made a wrong choice. And sometimes we understand that and don't make it again. But once again, in that 17, but be thou in the fear of Jehovah all the day long, for sure there is a reward, and thy hope shall not be cut off. Just because you can't do what everybody else is doing and live in the way they are, because sometimes we say, look at all the money they have, look at all the possessions they have. Why can't I have that? Why can't I do that? Where's our reward? And how much we have when we die? In heaven with God. All right, knew I wasn't going to get all the way through that. Thank you for your attention.